Hello and welcome to our program Where God Weeps, a program where we talk about the suffering church around the world. Nigeria is often referred to as the giant of Africa due to its large population and economy. With approximately 174 million inhabitants, 1 in 4 Africans is a Nigerian. Regarding religion, Nigeria is roughly divided in half between Christians who live mostly in the southern and central parts of the country and Muslims, concentrated mostly in the northern and southwestern regions. Constant friction between ethnic groups, religious rivalry and territorial disputes have created an extremely risky environment for Christians in some regions. To know more about the situation of the church in Nigeria, it is my privilege to welcome His Excellency Bishop Stephen Mamza from the Diocese of Yola. Your Excellency, welcome to our program.
Thank you so much.
Your Excellency, recently the U.S. State Department published a report on religious freedom, and it stated that the Nigerian government is not involved in any kind of religious persecution per se. However, it hasn't been able to bring accountable the groups responsible of some violence and some religious persecution in the country. How did this happen, Your Excellency? How did the country arrive to this situation?
Well, I think I will understand the situation we find ourselves in differently because I live in that particular area and I know what we experience. As far as we are concerned, we that live there, we are being persecuted. We are not talking about religious persecution in the whole of Nigeria, but in the northern part of Nigeria, there is religious persecution, we cannot deny that. And there are different ways by which persecutions could take place. So what is happening, there is persecution, element of persecution in it. In a situation whereby somebody is asked to recite a part of the Quran, and then he is unable to recite it, and then he is killed, is that not a persecution? That is persecution.
Now, we're talking about this group in Boko Haram that is particularly powerful in the northern part of the country. Now, how come they have such influence in the region? Is the government afraid of them, or there is some kind of a complicit arrangement between the two of them?
You see, the issue of the Boko Haram started, it exploded in 2009. And from 2009 to the present moment, Boko Haram, they have been expanding and they have been increasing in number, and even their own mode of operation has also expanded. And unfortunately, the issues surrounding Boko Haram somehow is being politicized, especially in Nigeria. The government has not done enough in order to handle the issue of the Boko Haram. And for maybe because of the political reasons or whatever reasons, I think the Nigerian government has not done adequately well in order to handle this issue of Boko Haram in order to bring it to an end.
Your Excellency, we're going to watch now a short film that we prepared about the reality of Nigeria and Boko Haram. So here is a short about Boko Haram in Nigeria.
Christians across Nigeria are becoming the victims of increasing violence. On Christmas Day 2011 in Madala, about 40 kilometers from the capital of Abuja, a car loaded with explosives was detonated just outside the grounds of St. Teresa's Catholic Church. 44 people were killed, over 80 were left injured.
There were a lot of people. And some of them were coming with some item for me to bless: rosary, crucifix, olive oil. As soon as I finished blessings, I was about entering the house, I heard just a loud sound. Bah! Twice.
The bombing, one of the deadliest in recent times to scar Africa's most populous nation, was carried out by the extremist militant Islamic group Boko Haram. This wave of terror, which is becoming more audacious and frequent, threatens to drive Christians from their places of worship. In the city of Jos, the Church of Christ in Nigeria headquarters were devastated in February 2012 by a suicide bomber.
When you look up there, you see some of the pieces of the scattered car and the remaining engine of the car there. He was aiming at the congregation, and if God had not protected, it could have pulled this building down, and people could just have been buried down here.
Nigeria's Boko Haram, which in the Hausa language means Western education is forbidden, is a vague and undefined militant Islamic group with origins in the northern city of Maiduguri. At its outset in 2002, Boko Haram preached a doctrine of rejection of all things Western that, as they claimed, led to the country's social injustices. By 2009, the group's actions turned ugly. Boko Haram began a campaign of terror with assassinations and senseless suicide bombings, resulting in over 1,000 deaths. Police stations, churches, markets, schools, and even the UN headquarters in the capital Abuja have been attacked. To combat the spread of violence, the government has imposed a curfew in certain areas. Roadblocks and checkpoints have become an everyday experience for both Christians and Muslims. There is growing fear that Boko Haram is networking outside Nigeria's borders as their attacks become more deadly.
We know from intelligence reports that this Boko Haram group has been receiving training from groups outside of Nigeria, like the Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb and also the Al-Shabaab in Somalia. They have fraternal links with these terrorist, fundamentalist Islamic groups. The trainings they got are professional trainings, how to make the bombs. Nobody would have taught them that in Nigeria.
The minority Christian population in the predominantly Muslim north, where a stricter Sharia law is enforced, is increasingly the victim of threats and violence perpetrated by Boko Haram and its supporters. Entire families have been forced to flee their villages, leaving their property and lives behind.
Christians are being targeted and shot at. Sometimes they follow the Christians in their homes and shoot at them. The children you see me with know what a bomb is, know what gunshots are.
Amid this devastating wave of persecution, Catholic leaders have called for justice and order. They seek dialogue between the religious communities in the hope of mending the relations torn apart by terror. They want to avoid letting a violent minority draw the nation's attention to religious differences that to them are not the source of the conflicts at all. After the Christmas Day blasts in Madala, a centre for counselling and dialogue has been created by the diocese.
There's no revenge. Rather, we should pray for the conversion of the people who the perpetrators, as well as those who are financiers, who support this group called Boko Haram. We're in discussion to see how we can build small units of inter-religious dialogue, interfaith dialogue, Muslims as well as Christians. And when we talk of Christians, we talk of other denominations, with the Catholic Church being the leader and bringing our brothers and sisters together. So my prayer is that the good Lord will rest the souls of all those who died, because I consider them martyrs. They died for Christ.
Come where
Welcome back to our program. Today we're talking with Bishop Mamza from the Diocese of Yola in Nigeria.
Yes.
Your Excellency, it is pretty staggering to see the reality that the country is living because of this particular group. It became an international news, the kidnap of these 270 schoolgirls approximately by this group. A month later, after they were kidnapped, some of them appeared in a video stating that they had converted willingly into Islam. Is this the purpose of this group, Your Excellency, to convert Christians?
Yeah. Well, the aim of the Boko Haram, they have not hidden their own primary aim of operating in Nigeria. They say they want to convert the whole of Nigeria, but they have to begin from a particular part of Nigeria, from northeast of Nigeria. Having converted the whole northeast of Nigeria, then they will go to the central, and then they go to the south. So their intention is convert by force. So the girls never willingly accept to be converted. They have no option. They have been abducted, and at one point, you either convert or you are killed. So they have no option but to accept it.
Can we define them as a religious fanatic group, a fundamentalist Muslim group, or there is something else behind these intentions, meaning ethnic rivalries, territorial disputes, socio-economical conflicts?
They are purely Islamic religious fanatics. Nothing to do with territorial kind of differences or whatever. They are pure fanatics. And their intention is, they don't hide their intention. They say they want to convert everybody in Nigeria into Islam and their own way of worship.
Your diocese, Your Excellency, is particularly in that region that it's right in the middle of the country where all this conflict is happening, particularly because the north is under this influence and the south is more Christian. Your diocese, your people, your faithfuls, do they live in fear?
Of course, they live in fear. They live in fear. My own hometown, my own home village where I was born and grew up, have been taken away by the members of the Boko Haram, and for now, there is no Christian that lives there. They have destroyed all churches in those places, and they don't allow any Christians. Those that were left behind, they kill all of them. So even those that are living outside those places that they have already taken over, they live in fear. Like even within Yola, which is where my cathedral is, you sleep with one eye closed and then one eye open because you don't know when they are going to strike and you don't know how they are going to strike. So everybody lives in fear because you cannot predict what is going to happen.
Are Christians leaving this region?
Massively. Christians have left massively. The only Christians that have not left are Christians who have no other place, they have no option. But Christians who have their relatives working in Abuja, in the south, southeast, in the southwest, in the central, they have massively left. And some of them have vowed that they will never come back again because they have seen their brothers and sisters being slaughtered. Some have seen their parents being killed. So what will bring them back again? So some have left for good.
Your Excellency, how do you give them hope? What do you tell them to stay there and to stay faithful to their faith?
This is a very, very difficult thing to do in a situation whereby you have no control over the security. You cannot predict the security, and the government has not provided enough security in order to protect the people. It is very difficult for one to tell them to remain in those places. In fact, what I have been telling them is that if you have an option, you have a place that you feel that it will be safer to go, move to that place. That's what I kept telling people, at least for the time being. Probably time will come when the members of the Boko Haram will be overcome, and then probably these people will come back in the future. But at the moment, there is no guarantee of security. And so one cannot ask those people to stay back. And you cannot ask them to keep on relying on prayers that God will take care of the situation. We need actions at the moment. We need the security to be in place in order to take care of these people. They have no food, they have no water, they have clean water to drink. So what will make them to stay? If they have better places to go to, they should go for the time being. When the situation calms down, they can still come back.
It seems that Boko Haram is very well funded. They have the resources for weapons, to recruit people, to train people. Do we have an idea where that funding is coming from?
No, I have no idea. But what we know is that they have their sources of funds. They recruit young people by giving them $3,000. And this is a youth that has never seen $100, and then you give him $3,000. He's ready to abandon whatever he is doing in order to join them. And that is what is happening. So their sources of funds, I find it is very, because it is not a small source, is a massive source that they have, whether from within the country or from, but I'm sure they have support from within the country and also from outside the country. But we don't know exactly where are the sources of the funds are coming from.
So in many cases then, some of the members of Boko Haram, they're not such fanatics in terms of their religion and their faith. It's more a matter of the money that they can make,
of course,
being part of it.
Of course, some of them don't even believe in what they are doing. If you ask them anything about Islam, they may not be able to tell you. If you ask them anything about their own ideology, they may not even be able to tell you. So some of them are there because of the gains, because of the resources they are getting. So that is it.
You're touching what's my next question, Your Excellency, and it is regarding this the Dogo Nahawa massacre of 2010. It left approximately 500 people, or more than 500 people, dead, mostly Christians. Now, the group that perpetrated this hideous crime, they claimed that this was in retaliation for some previous attacks on Muslim groups that happened in the Jos area. My question to you is, are we Christians also attacking other religious groups?
Well, I think that of Jos was Dogo, Nahawa, and some of the crises in Jos will be different from what is happening in the Northeast. Because in Jos, unfortunately, we have actually had attacks. Definitely, the Muslims started the attack. But we had situations whereby, because the attack was so much that the Christians had to retaliate, which we don't actually believe in that too. We don't believe in retaliation because the Bible tells us not to retaliate. But again, we cannot say that there should be no self-defense. And sometimes, even if there is self-defense, it is being interpreted as retaliation. But there has never been a situation whereby Christians, they go on rampage and then they kill as many people as we have been hearing, Boko Haram killing, or the Muslims doing this and that in Jos and other places. So the issue of retaliation cannot be ruled out completely from what happened in Jos. There were instances whereby there were retaliation. But the retaliation cannot be compared with the damage that were already done by those who started it.
Now, with this picture that you're describing, Your Excellency, then what do you expect? What are your hopes? What do you want to happen?
Well, what we want to happen, especially with the present situation in northeast Nigeria, is for the government to rise up to its own responsibility and try to contain the situation and put politics aside and face it squarely and sincerely. And then secondly, for Christians...
For this one in particular,
yeah.
Sorry for interrupting you, but do you think that international pressure to the Nigerian government would help, or how would the government have a change of attitude?
Well, I think there should be pressure from international community to put pressure on Nigerian government to make sure that the government faces the challenge of Boko Haram. And also the international community also has to assist Nigeria in also facing the Boko Haram. We talk about arms, and our government has been complaining as well that the other countries, they have refused to sell arms to Nigeria for whatever reason, I don't know. So these are kind of the cooperation that we need. We need commitment from the Nigerian government. We need commitment from the international community to support Nigerian government in fighting Boko Haram, because Boko Haram is terrorism. And then from the community as well, from the local community, both Christians and Muslims in Nigeria and those of other faith, the traditional worshippers, they should come together and speak with one voice. Because if right from the beginning, the position of Muslims and Christians has been one right from the beginning, Boko Haram wouldn't have escalated to this stage where it is now. But in the beginning, I think our brother Muslims, they were not open enough to denounce those people and say they are non-Islamic. And that's what we want to hear, for them to denounce them and say this is not Islamic. And then for the Muslims and Christians, the moderate Muslims and then Christians should come together and disown the Boko Haram and fight them.
This is precisely the message that the Holy Father gave in Turkey when he was asking for Muslim leaders to denounce these abuses of Islam, which they claim to be Islam, but in reality, they don't belong to the real teachings of the Prophet.
Yeah, because you see, the problem we had, especially from the Muslim leaders, is that some, because of fear, because there were some Islamic clerics who, right from the beginning, they denounced Boko Haram and they were targeted and they were eliminated. So the others decided not to speak. They don't speak for, they don't speak against. They just keep quiet about it. But I think since the attack in Kano recently of the Central Mosque, so many Muslim leaders have been speaking out about the evil of Boko Haram, because I think it is high time for Nigerians now to understand, to realize the fact that Boko Haram has come in order to destroy the country. It's not to build the country at all. And whether Muslims or Christians, they have come in order to destroy everybody and also to bring disunity within the country.
Now, Your Excellency, I would like also to talk about the bright side of your beautiful country.
Right.
And one of the data that we get that it's really amazing and it's wonderful, it's the number of vocations that you have in Nigeria. More than 5,000 seminarians nowadays. That's quite a number, Your Excellency. How does this happen?
Well, I think it is, thanks be to God, this is now vocation boom for Nigeria. The Catholic Church came to Nigeria over 100 years ago. And
so it's a very young church.
Yeah, it's a young church. And I think the growth in vocation is a sign that the church is getting deeper and deeper into every corner of Nigeria, and people are really embracing the faith. And there's also growth in population in Nigeria. The population is increasing, and so the vocation is also going at the same time with the population in Nigeria. So this is our vocation boom. So thanks be to God, we have been praying for that. And I think we cannot have enough priests and say we have more than enough.
And you have a very young population. More than 50% of the Nigerian population is younger than 16 years old. That's a really amazing young population. This is an opportunity for more vocations, Your Excellency?
Oh, it is. Of course it is. It is more opportunity. In fact, there are so many applications every year to different dioceses from young people who want to become priests and become religious. But sometimes we can't even we have to limit the number because of the resources that we have. We cannot take more than the ones that we can train. So I think this is, the church really has to harness or make use of this opportunity of getting them, because there are so many places where priests are needed in the world today. So even if we have enough in Nigeria, we can send them for missionary work. Nigeria got Christianity, got the faith through the missionaries, and particularly the Irish missionaries. So probably this is going to be the turn of Nigeria again to go back and then to re-evangelize other parts of the world and those places that have not been evangelized, for us to send missionaries in order to go and work in such places.
And Your Excellency, finally, what would you like the people that listen and see this program to know about your diocese and the church in Nigeria, and particularly, what would you like to receive from the Universal Church?
Well, now at the moment, the church in my diocese is a suffering church. Number one, what we need prayers. We need prayers from different parts of the world, and because without prayers, what is going on can never be overcome. But we believe and we trust that with prayers we'll be able to overcome it. And then secondly, we still also appeal because, like presently in Yola, we have thousands of displaced people who need basic things of life, and particularly the immediate need of those people is food. So if there are areas, if there are ways by which such people could be assisted, then I think that will be appreciated. So I think these are the things that we need at the moment, badly need.
Well, Your Excellency, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much. God bless.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us in another program of Where God Weeps. If you want to know more about the situation of the suffering church in Nigeria or in other parts of the world, we encourage you to contact the information at the end of this program. Thank you, and God bless.